Being a smart homer now is getting kind of expensive. It used to be so easy. Anybody who wanted to get started in smart homes, the easy recommendation was a Raspberry Pi. It would be less than 100 quid and it'd get you up and running with a perfectly decent smart home. You'd actually be able to use this thing potentially for years. If you don't become a homelab nerd like the majority of us do, you might actually never outgrow the Raspberry Pi. Would actually probably be perfectly sufficient forever. I can't really recommend the Raspberry Pi anymore though, because these days they're just not a good value proposition. My recommendation instead has shifted towards mini PCs, which are a much better value proposition, but even they're getting to be quite expensive. My usual recommendation of the Beelink SER5, that's a really, really good machine, but quite a few people have pointed out in the comments that an SER5 just for running Home Assistant, it's kind of overkill, and it sort of is. The reason why I recommend that machine is usually, as I alluded to before, a lot of people who get into Home Assistant kind of get the bug, and then that machine will give you headroom, especially if you get the 16 gig one. A 16 gig Beelink SER5 is a really, really good homelab starter kit, not just a smart home starter kit. But if you really do only want to run Home Assistant on it, and maybe a couple of other light services like, I don't know, Node-RED or Zigbee to MQTT, I agree. The Beelink SER5, especially the 16 gig one, it's a very, very powerful machine for what you need. And because of that, it's a very expensive machine for what you need. So I set myself a challenge to get the cheapest mini PC I could. I found this. This was £114 on Amazon. I've never heard of this brand before, Kiuia. This is an 8 gig Intel Gemini Lake processor with 128 gig storage, and yes, I did just read that off the back. I don't know this brand. I don't know if this is a good product. We're going to find this out today. But this was only 114 quid. This was brand new on Amazon. Now bear in mind, I'm in the UK. The UK is a notoriously expensive country. We're often known as rip-off Britain. I also bought it on Amazon because I wanted the guarantee and I wanted the quick delivery. However, if you are in another country, or even if you just shop around on other sites like AliExpress or go for something used on a site like CEX or even eBay, you might actually, in fact you almost certainly will be able to get it even cheaper. You can probably get it for less than 100 quid. All I'll say on those sites is, buyer beware. Just make sure you do your research, make sure you look into the seller, make sure you're getting a safe deal. But for 114 quid, I actually think this will be quite a good start machine. So go grab a coffee, I'll get one too, and then we'll get into it. Don't worry, I'd already taken it out of the box. So this thing's actually quite light. It's lighter than my Beelink, which probably isn't that surprising because it is a much cheaper machine. The build quality is a little bit more plasticky, although not by much. Considering this is over 100 quid cheaper, I think the quality's fine. A lot of mini PCs look exactly like this. I have no complaints. It's got good I/O on the back. It's got 2 HDMI outs, although I will say an 8 gig machine, this is not going to be a very, very good workstation. Like, you might be able to get away with some basic internet browsing and maybe open up a spreadsheet or a Word document, but it does come pre-installed with Windows. But I wouldn't use this as your workhorse. I wouldn't have this sat on your desk and do work on it. You'll find it'll be quite slow with only 8 gig these days. But for a smart home server, this thing's going to do just fine, I'm sure. The setup is actually straightforward. I've done a video on how to set up on Home Assistant. It's fiddly but easy, I would say. I'm not going to go through that again in this video because I've already done a video on it. Why would you want to see that twice? But what I am going to do is I'm going to transfer everything that's on my old machine onto this one because I have plans for that old machine. If you want to know what I'm going to do with it, subscribe, you'll find out next week. Apparently Home Assistant make this process really, really straightforward, so let's see how well it works. We're going to go to Settings. I'm going to scroll down to System. And we are going to back up. Back up now. Backups are essential, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I really should do this. Okay, my encryption key. Then what we'll do is we'll just check everything. Click Next. Then we'll create a backup. And then I've got Nabu Casa set up. So mine is automatically uploading to Nabu Casa. So theoretically, when I log into Nabu Casa on my other Home Assistant, I should just be able to restore from there and jobs are good. For a very, very short while, these 2 instances are going to be running simultaneously because I'm not going to format my Beelink PC straight away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trust the Nabu Casa method. If you don't have Nabu Casa, or if you just want to do it manually, the better way to do it would be to go to Manual Backup, go to your most recent one, and then just go to Download. You won't be able to do an encrypted version of it, but you'll still be able to download it just fine. So it's exactly the same deal as before. You're going to try Ubuntu server. I'm not going to go through all the installation steps. I've done this already. Go check out that video. I'm just going to zoom through this really, really quickly now. Okay, so theoretically, we should just be able to go Home Assistant Cloud, log in, and everything should work. If you did do the download route, all you do is click on Upload Backup, select the file from your computer, and it should be the same process. But I'm going to try the Home Assistant Nabucasa route. So if I log in, and then I want to restore absolutely everything. So I saved my encryption key earlier on. Restore backup. And this should just bring everything back. Now, one thing you're going to find with a machine this cheap, absolutely everything is going to be slower. This is a your mileage may vary thing. I would say that for the occasional bit of admin that you need to do, the occasional bit of systems work that you need to do, I don't think I care that it's a little bit slower. The actual smart home stuff should still be fine. It should still run the exact same way it always has done, because 8 gig actually is okay for a smart home. Everything should still be as responsive as usual. You just might find that when you have to do sort of admin things like this, any sort of maintenance stuff like this, that's where you'll start to feel a little bit of slowness, but I don't think it's going to be slow enough to bother me. As I say, you might feel differently. Okay, so we should be all restored now. And indeed we are. And look at this. Everything's saying unavailable. That's weird. Duplicate Home Assistant. Okay, so if I shut this version of Home Assistant down, we should hopefully find all of this stuff just starts to work. Look at that. So that's cool. So that's transferred all of my paired Zigbee devices across as well, which I wasn't actually sure it would do, but it actually has. Everything is exactly as it was before. And yeah, look, as I said, still perfectly responsive. The interface is actually still really, really zippy. Node-RED isn't noticeably different. What will be interesting is to see if all of the Node-RED stuff is still connected. Not everything I've got is paired through Home Assistant, or rather, it is paired through Home Assistant, but the automations don't run through Home Assistant. They run through Node-RED. It looks like everything's still connected, but let's actually check that. So if I push this button, the light should still go off. Yep. I think this might have changed my recommendation. I still rate the Beelink devices. I still think the SAR5 is a fantastic device. So I'd still say that if you actually think that you might get the bug and you want to go down the more homelab route or do some more advanced stuff, you probably will find the SAR5 with the 16 gig of RAM isn't actually a bad investment. It probably will last you a longer time because you won't feel the pain of having 8 gig of RAM. 16 gigs of RAM gives you a lot more headroom. It has a slightly more advanced processor in it as well, I think. So you will find that that machine will serve you a hell of a lot longer than this one will before you start to feel yourself pushing up against the edges of it. But as a starter kit, or even if you know that you're only going to want a basic smart home, at 114 quid or less if you go online and find something cheaper, because I bet you can. I bet this wasn't the cheapest device available. I bet this was just the cheapest device on Amazon today in the UK. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you go buy I've already forgotten what this brand is. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you're going to go buy this one. I will put a link to it in the description if you want to. If you're in the UK and you don't want to get a second-hand device, or you don't want to go to a potentially sketchy website, because there are scams on AliExpress, there are scams on eBay. To be honest, there are occasionally scams on Amazon, but they're a lot rarer, and you've got Amazon's A to Z guarantee to back you up. If you just want the simple option and 115 quid is within your budget, go grab this one. This is actually fine. I think this will probably do 99% of the people forever. I think if you want to just dip your toes in, if you want to just get started with Home Assistant, I bet you'd be able to use this thing for years. Years before you actually started to feel the pain of having it. You might never feel the pain of having it. Home Assistant is actually quite light. It doesn't take much to run. I would still be recommending the Raspberry Pis over this if Raspberry Pis were cheaper. If you've got one like hanging around in a drawer and it's a Raspberry Pi 4 or above, or if you can find one really, really cheap on eBay, I'd still say go for that, because if you can get one for like 50 quid, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you can get one of these for 50 quid, it's even more of a no-brainer, but I'm not sure you'll get one of these for 50 quid unless you're very, very lucky. But even for 100 quid, the value proposition of this thing, it's kind of hard to beat now. I'll pop a link for this thing down below, and if you want to see what I'm going to do with my Beelink SAR5, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, and you'll find out possibly as soon as next week. If you want to get Home Assistant installed from scratch and you haven't done that yet, go check this video out. I'll lead you through it step by step. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Ta-ra!